At first glance, Jiang Bo looked like a man shattered by grief, his face twisted in anguish, his body collapsing to the ground as if crushed by unbearable weight. Onlookers who gathered around the apartment building filmed him as he screamed, wept, and even smashed his forehead against a wall. Two tiny bodies had just fallen 15 stories. Two lives extinguished in an instant. A 2-year-old girl, a 1-year-old boy, his children. The crowd whispered in horror. Some cried. Others shook their heads at the cruelty of fate. To them, it looked like a tragic accident, a father destroyed by loss. But what they didn't know was that the grief they were watching was fake. It was a mask, a performance. Behind those crocodile tears was a far darker truth. Because Jiang Bo hadn't lost his children by chance. He had killed them, and he hadn't done it alone. He had done it for love, or at least what he thought was love. For his mistress, Ye Chengchen. A woman who told him bluntly, "If you want me, you cannot have them." A woman who demanded that he erase his past, erase his own blood, as proof of devotion. And Jiang, weak and desperate, chose her. Over his daughter, over his son, over their mother, over everything. This is the story of one of the most chilling crimes in modern China. The Chongqing child murders. A story of obsession, betrayal, and the darkest choice a parent could ever make. It was the afternoon of November 2nd, 2020, Chongqing, China. A sprawling metropolis of concrete towers and neon lights built along the banks of the Yangtze River. Life that day moved at its usual rhythm. Cars honking, markets buzzing, families returning home for dinner. But in one quiet residential compound, time stood still. Around 2 p.m., two tiny bodies landed with a sickening thud on the grass below Building 15. One was Ruisi, nicknamed Shushu, just 2 years old. The other was her baby brother, Ruyer, 1-year-old, barely able to walk. Shushu died instantly. Ruyer clung to life, but only for a short while. By the time he reached the hospital, he too was gone. Inside the apartment, the only adult present had been their father, Jiang Bo. He ran down to the courtyard, screaming and thrashing, throwing himself into a performance so convincing that for a brief moment, even seasoned investigators believed it. He looked like a man whose world had collapsed. But grief leaves traces. Real grief is raw, uncontrolled. Jiang's felt rehearsed. Neighbors noticed small things. His story kept changing. First he said he was asleep, then he said he was in the bathroom smoking. Later he claimed he had been dizzy from cough syrup. He stammered, contradicted himself, and the cracks in his performance widened. And above all, their mother, Chen Min, knew instantly. Something in her gut told her Jiang was lying. At first, the police still leaned toward accident. Windows in high-rise apartments are death traps for curious toddlers. But when investigators examined the scene, they realized something was off. The window from which the children supposedly climbed was far too high for them to reach. The baby boy couldn't even stand steadily on his own, let alone climb. And his sister, at 2, could not have lifted him. There were no footprints on the sill, no marks of climbing, nothing. The children hadn't fallen, they had been thrown. And the only one who could have done it was their father. Who was Jiang Bo? To understand the crime, we must step back. Jiang grew up poor. He dropped out of school early and stumbled through life as a salesman, always chasing money, always dissatisfied. In 2017, he met Chen Min, a woman from a more stable background. At first, she wanted nothing to do with him, but Jiang was persistent. He courted her, showered her with promises he couldn't really keep. He convinced her. By the end of that year, she was pregnant. They married quickly, their life together beginning not from love's freedom, but from necessity. In 2018, their daughter Shushu was born. In 2019, their son Ruyer followed. To the outside world, they looked like an ordinary young family. But inside, Jiang was already unraveling. He was not a responsible father. He demanded luxury gifts. On one birthday, he insisted on a designer belt worth more than $400. He spent money recklessly, leaving Chen to cover bills and childcare. When their infant son was hospitalized, Chen stayed by his bedside for days. Jiang visited only twice, more concerned with his own comfort than his child's survival. Their marriage was already cracking. By early 2019, Jiang filed for divorce. He wanted out, and by late that year, he found someone new, Ye Chengchen. Ye was ambitious, beautiful, and obsessive. She fell for Jiang, But she fell for him with conditions. She made it clear that she could never accept his children. They were baggage, a reminder of another woman, proof of a past she wanted erased. In April 2020, only months before the murders, Ye delivered her ultimatum. In messages later recovered by police, she wrote, "If you don't have children, I'll choose you without hesitation. I can only be with you if you don't have them." In May, Jiang's reply was chilling. "I'm already thinking of how to get rid of them." This was not a sudden snap. This was a decision that built over months. Ye's pressure was relentless. She dangled her love like a prize he could only win by sacrificing his own blood. And Jiang, spineless, agreed. The first attempt came on October 10th, 2020. Jiang was alone with his son. He picked him up, carried him toward the window. He tried to push him through, but the boy cried. His tiny hands clung desperately to his father's clothes. Jiang hesitated. For a moment, humanity flickered. He stopped, but he did not abandon the plan. He simply postponed it. On November 1st, 2020, the day before the murders, Ye called Jiang on video. During the call, she took a blade and cut her own wrist in front of the camera. Blood smeared across her arm. Her words were a final ultimatum: "Prove your love, or lose me forever." Jiang panicked. He begged her to stop, but inside the choice crystallized. To him, this was the moment of no return. The next day, November 2nd, his mother left the apartment briefly, leaving Jiang alone with the children. He stood by the window, picked them up, first his daughter, then his son, and one by one he threw them 15 stories down. The sound of their bodies hitting the ground would be heard by witnesses who later said it would never leave them. Afterward, Jiang played his role. He screamed. He cried. He slammed his head against the wall, drawing blood. He performed grief like a man auditioning for sympathy. Neighbors cried with him, but investigators were already piecing the truth. When questioned, Jiang cracked, but he refused to take full blame. He pointed to Ye Chengchen. He said they had planned it together. Police dug deeper. They recovered deleted texts, voice messages, chat logs. The evidence was damning. Conversations where Ye called the children obstacles. Messages where Jiang promised to take care of them. A digital trail of obsession, manipulation, and cruelty. In court, Jiang wept again. He confessed, but his apologies rang hollow. He insisted he had been pressured, manipulated, cornered. Ye, for her part, denied responsibility. She claimed her words had been only a test, that she had never truly meant them. But the evidence showed otherwise. This was no test. This was conspiracy. In December 28, 2021, the Chongqing Intermediate People's Court delivered its verdict. Both Jiang Bo and Ye Chengchen were sentenced to death. The judgment described their actions as extremely despicable and particularly cruel. They appealed. They begged for mercy. But mercy does not come easily when two innocent children are murdered by the people meant to protect them. In January 2024, the Supreme People's Court rejected their appeals. The sentences were upheld. Shortly after, both Jiang and Ye were executed, reportedly by lethal injection. News of their executions spread like wildfire across Chinese social media. Hundreds of millions of views, thousands of comments. Some wrote, "Justice at last." Others, "They should have been thrown from the same balcony." The anger was visceral, the grief collective. For Chen Min, the children's mother, it was the end of a nightmare. She had fought tirelessly for justice, enduring every headline, every hearing, every reminder of what she had lost. When the executions were confirmed, she said quietly, "A nightmare that tortured our family for more than 3 years has finally disappeared." But closure is not healing. No verdict can give back what was stolen. Her daughter Shushu, her son Ruyer, both gone forever. Her life will never return to what it once was. Chongqing child murders are more than just a crime story. They are a reminder of how obsession and manipulation can twist love into something monstrous. Evil does not always come from strangers in the dark. Sometimes it comes from those closest to us. A father who traded his children for a mistress. A woman who demanded proof of devotion written in blood. 2 children gone too soon. A mother left in ruins. And 2 people who chose cruelty over compassion, obsession over humanity. Justice may have been served, but the question remains, was it ever enough? You've just heard the story of Jiang Bo and Ye Chengchen, the Chongqing child murders. But what do you think? Was Ye truly the mastermind, Or was Jiang always doomed to betray his own family? Share your thoughts below. I'll be reading them all. And if you want more stories like this one, subscribe to Crimenest. Every week we uncover the darkest true crimes from Asia and beyond.